Hello, friends. Hey there. My name is Summer, and today I'm going to talk about something a little bit different. Please forgive my manly voice right now. I'm extremely hoarse. My voice is finally coming back a little bit. It seems like every October or November, when the temperature changes drastically outside, that my voice completely disappears. I'm not sick. I don't feel sick. It's just my voice becomes hoarse every time this year for like 2 weeks. So please forgive me for my hoarse voice. However, I did want this to get out. I just wanted to get this out there before I didn't have the urge to talk about it anymore. So today, I really want to. I had something very important in my life happen, and I just want to get my story out there in the hopes that maybe it can help someone else. Because initially, me Googling and seeing other stories about this subject in turn helped me to find a path to help me and my situation. So, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story and my life and what ADHD looks like for a female, a woman, and also in adulthood. Okay. But let's backtrack for a second. When it all kind of began, or when I feel like it began, or when I started noticing it. If we're going to be technical, even though I only have one remembrance of it when I was young, and then I started noticing it more in junior high and middle school. But if we want to be technical, the first sign I knew, or I felt something was different, was when I was 5 years old. And I remember it specifically because I remember it being the first time I'd ever felt a feeling like that. I was at my grandparents' house, and my parents were away, and I was staying the night with them. And I woke up in the middle of the night around 3 a.m. and I shook my grandmother and said, I need a drink of water. So we were getting off the bed, and she went before me and stopped talking to me and went and was going to get me a glass of water. And then I kind of just had something starting from here that just felt like a drain, a drop, and went into the pit of my stomach. And I freaked out on her, and I remember saying, and she remembers to this day, me saying, pay attention to me. Love me, pay attention to me. I need it now. I want it now. And I just felt so confused and being very aware that this wasn't okay. This attention seeking type of way wasn't probably something I should be speaking about even at 5 years old. It felt like it was bad. Then let's go ahead and skip to when I began to notice it heavier in junior or middle, high, whatever those grades are now. I began filling my schedule up, and to the outer world, this looked like I was an overachiever, very ambitious person. I literally would keep myself so busy with extracurricular activities and being a part of all different types of clubs that I would literally get sick on a regular basis. I continuously had a cold. I continuously had some sort of infection, ear infection, bronchitis, due to my immune system being so low, because I would keep myself overactive. If I would have school, and then in between lunches, or during lunch, I would create something. I wouldn't eat lunch. I would go do something like tutor a kid or something that was fulfilling. And then after school, I would have cheerleading practice, and then after that, I would I became a Pee Wee cheerleading coach and taught others. And then if I wasn't doing that, I was, president of the FBLA, part of Beta Club, part of every single club you can think about, okay, that kept me busy, 110% busy, to where I could never get bored. And then, even at that, if I had time in between that I had extra time, let's say on Sundays or whenever, things aren't going on, I would go volunteer at a shelter, or I would go volunteer for a group, a church group. I would go rake someone's yard. I would start a club of my own. But the main thing that I started noticing it is that I was so tired that I wanted to stop. I was so tired, and I would want to go over to sleepovers or watch movies, but I knew I couldn't sit still for that long. I knew I would get sad if I sat still that long. I knew I couldn't do those type of things. So I just kept myself active. And I was so tired and sleepy, and my body was tired, but literally I couldn't stop, because the second it stopped and the second I got bored, an immediate depression would happen. If I didn't have something lined up for after one of my projects were done, if I didn't have something lined up for the following day or the future, I would immediately become depressed. And if I can explain this depression to you, not only is it instantaneous, but an example would be if you took a syringe and had a cup of water, and you took the syringe and sucked all the water out of the cup at a fast rate. That's exactly the feeling that I would get when I didn't have constant stimulation. It would be all the life and the feelings and everything inside me drain out at one point and go to this bottomless, dark place where I felt overwhelmingly hopeless, overwhelmingly like there was no meaning to life, overwhelmingly like I'm never going to be able to feed this monster inside of me that will never be content. And then I would just get lethargic, and like a typical depression, I would not be able to move, not be able to find anything fun, movies or going out or watching TV or listening to music. I would just literally sit there in a blank stare and not be able to move and not know what to do about it. So I spent the rest of my life up until now really finding ways to keep that monster at bay, because it is one of the worst feelings you could ever feel. Like you want to, it's like I wanted to die when I would get bored. And when I say bored, it wasn't like, oh my god, I'm so bored, like let's find something to do and I go play a game and be okay, or I go read a magazine and be okay. It wasn't that. It was an overwhelming feeling of, oh my god, I want to die. I want to go jump off a cliff right now. I want somebody to crash into me and so I can just leave this world. It was an overwhelming, depressive, black, dark feeling. And so I strived to, the rest of my life, to keep things filled up in my schedule, because this is what I saw my mother do. So I know it could work, and I really didn't want to be on medication for it. I wanted to do it the natural way. And of course, I'm young, I think I can do it, and symptoms started getting worse. And I go to a doctor, just a regular family doctor, because I start getting irritable too, and they just diagnosed me with anxiety, depression. And I remember going along with it at the time, but I remember saying, but I'm not sad. I'm not depressed. I'm not like, this isn't my normal, and I didn't really know how to describe it because back then I didn't know what I know now. Um, and it just seemed like I could keep it under control, and I was self-medicating through healthy things like volunteering and being a part of clubs and helping people, and you know but I they diagnosed me with that, so I got on that. Well, I got off of it in my like when I was 19, and felt no difference. I actually was happier, and I didn't go into a state of depression. It wasn't like a huge drop, but the still fact remained where I had to keep busy nonstop. Um, and that leads into present day at this age, and things are different now. I have a child that I can't fill my schedule up with all these extracurricular activities. I can't keep her out late. A lot of my time is spent at home being a mother and doing boring, simple tasks. So, I've gone through a lot more ups and downs lately, moodiness and depression because I'm bored. I can't sit still. I can't be in the moment with her. I can't sit there and watch a movie. I was telling my doctor, who I went to talk to today, I would pay an ungodly amount of money if I could just sit down and watch a movie. But I physically can't. Like, I have to physically get up every 5 minutes and do something, or I just get depressed and in search of stimulation. I'm in need of constant stimulation, or I get depressed. And I mean constant stimulation as it needs to be something that I like, something that stimulates me, not something that, somebody else thinks is stimulating. It's something that I have to find stimulating. So, where was I going with that? See, I'm already getting distracted. So I used to be able to self-medicate in healthier ways per se, even though it wasn't healthy. It was healthier than what I resulted to now, that I have to be in a stationary position because I'm a mother. And I just began becoming lethargic and not being able to get up and do anything. So I turned to start drinking wine, every night. And it's like, now it makes more sense. But alcohol is a stimulant, and that makes sense now that would help me get up and get dishes done and dinner done and make me feel normal, make me feel motivated, and I could complete a task and not feel like I wanted to go jump off a cliff because I was so bored. It kind of just, I use that as a self-medicating instead of all the million projects. However, I did, and trust me, I don't want to do that, and I didn't want to do that in the beginning. It was just something that, self-medicating. But still, up to this day, I throw myself in many projects, and it really didn't make sense to me when people were saying things to me, like my previous boyfriend. He said a few things to me that others, have said to me in the past, but it didn't really matter to me because I didn't care for those people the way I cared for my boyfriend, my ex-boyfriend, my recent. But I was overfilling my schedule and added another project on top of being a mom and full-time job. And he said, I forget the exact words, but basically it was like, Are you gonna even have enough time to do that? It seems like a lot you're putting on your plate. And I kind of stopped and thought in my head, yeah, you have no idea. If I could stop, I would, you know, but I never said that out loud. And then another comment that kind of got to me was what my child's father told me a long time ago. But again, I didn't care what he said because I just had no feelings for him. But since it was coming from someone I loved, they said, nothing is ever enough for you. You are never content. Nothing will ever be enough for you. And although I was mad at the time and I was like, how dare you, blah, 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 blah. Later on, it kind of light bulb, like connecting the dots of how, in reality, this monster inside of me that I have let overtake me in my life and quality of life, nothing will ever be enough for it. So, in a sense, he was right. Maybe not the context that he was probably coming from, but in reality, yeah, nothing will ever be enough for the slave to the addiction of seeking constant stimulation to be okay. Nothing will ever, satisfy that inside of me. And yeah, it's extremely hard. And what that looks like in a relationship, I don't know about anybody else with this condition, but what that looks like in a relationship would be, the beginning, the puppy love stage, the oh my god, ooey gooey, everybody's high from the endorphins and the puppy love stage. And then that slows down and you become a boring, we're just laying on the couch. What that looks like for someone dealing with what I'm dealing with is getting upset with a person because they're not showing me attention, because I'm seeking that stimulation, that little high that I'm used to getting with them. Sitting down with them trying to watch a movie and not being able to complete that because I'm bored with the movie, and then they're not showing me any attention. So I need to get up. Either I'm going to start a fight because they're not giving that to me and I need it. I need to feed that monster inside me. Or I can get up and go do something, which I've learned through years of conditioning myself to deal with, is that's what I have to do. It's an ongoing, exhausting battle within myself. And, it does become a problem in relationships, I finally realized, I seek that constant stimulation that you get at the very beginning, or I become unhappy. And then, which entails in me creating problems and drama that's not there. I'm not saying that my past relationships don't have their own problems in which they, need to be held accountable for, but I am seeing the way this trait within me has created a bigger issue, especially with people that I love and wanted to be with and wanted to work things with. I'm now seeing how that didn't help the situation at all. So it can be a sense of ruining a relationship, for lack of better words. So I was talking. I was going to a weight loss doctor who was helping me like naturally lose weight with like diet and exercise and stuff, right? And then I told him about, my drinking and how it where it all stems from, and how I wasn't losing weight the way I should be if I was, eating right, in which I was. And I told him this deep, version, and I went right back from the beginning of when it started, and got very kind of emotional in that, like, I have finally reached a breaking point. I have, I don't know what else to do. I've become hopeless. I tried everything. I've tried, and this is me explaining to him all the little tips and tricks I've tried naturally. Like, for example, I started going to the gym, and like Mondays or cardio, Wednesday is weightlifting and bar and yoga, like everything you can imagine. But they're high intensity workouts, right? So you get super like, I'm dying, and yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. And I feel great. And then as soon as that my pulse slows down or the adrenaline stops, I my emotions bottom out. Like, I immediately start crying. I immediately start getting weepy and sad, because that adrenaline that was keeping my dopamine levels high at that time has dropped, and so it's made everything else drop. And I've done things in the past that was not healthy, and I still can't even believe I'm alive till this day that I was doing that. But it was just to reach that level of stimulation that nothing else could feed me. And that's the thing with ADHD, is you will do anything to, in boys it's, reckless, not saying it for all, but for a small example, they'll jump off a roof to, get that rush. For females, for everyone it's different, but especially for females, it looks different. And honestly, statistics now show that women or females typically aren't diagnosed with ADHD until adulthood. That is a fact. So, and lo and behold, me telling him this, he stopped me and he was like, look, I understand. And he said, I myself am ADHD. And I have an addictive personality too. I have to keep myself busy on slow days when I don't have enough clients. I get sad and I get depressed, and I have to find something to do. And I just was like I felt breath within inside of me, that not only has somebody had the feelings I felt, but it was the doctor that I was literally speaking to. And then he eased my kind of guiltiness, my guilty feelings. He said, well, of course you would, alcohol would make you feel okay because it's a stimulant, and ADHD lack in stimulants. They lack in the frontal cortex of the brain, those neurotransmitters that seek reward, action and reward. And he said it's not very far-fetched. He said statistically, people with ADHD, especially women in adulthood, chronic, they get addicted to something, substance abuse or alcohol or something, to kind of cope. So he was like, it's really not that, drastic of a statement that this would help you. But of course, he said, we gotta get you out of it, So he gave me a number for a specialist that would get me in within the next week, and somebody that has lived and breathed and studied, and all they do all day, every day, is help and diagnose and treat and all these things bundled up in one with ADD and ADHD. And they specialize in people that have this, adults, and he takes into account older women that have hormones forever changing. It's like this is just his specialty. This is his guru. He spent his life work on it. And he was affordable and could get me in, and I was just like, what? Like, I was so happy that I may soon find relief. Like, you have no idea. I broke down. I cried. Because I've kept this within inside, trying to mask it my whole life, and it's done. I mean, it's got me through life, but it's not a good quality of life, and hard to have relationships and friends and consistency. And anyway, so so I went to him, and we did an evaluation. And I just told him everything, and he asked me some questions, and I did an MRI scan as well. And I found out that I have been, I have been functioning at the lowest point of levels, my whole life. And it hit me on another level. And when they showed me images that stimulated me, my whole brain would light up as an average person. But take those away, and it all was stripped again. And that just, I don't know how to explain it. Through all the learning disabilities, through all the nights I spent crying when I was in school, that it took me 4 hours to retain one page. And I would still make myself get a 4.0, but it took me a lot more time than the average person. But what kept me going and successful is that reward, that high that I would get to make it happen. But it was a painful process. So to the learning disabilities of, I don't know how many months I spent on analog clocks. I could not get it at that age. I could not. I could get addition, but I could not get subtraction. It was like anything that went backwards, it went beyond me. Retaining information. The constant seeking of validation from people. Being in charge of all these clubs to where I would make myself sick just to have somebody say, look at that, I'm proud of her, things like that. To boyfriends, to finally understanding that it wasn't me needing a boyfriend or that feeling to be happy. It was that thrive to get that high of having that present. There's a lot of things that I look back now on that I'm just like, wow, every single thing comes together as me seeking stimulation. And if I didn't get it, I got immediately upset. Of course, I would always hide it because I knew it wasn't right. I knew it wasn't okay. Just didn't know how to express it to where anybody would understand. But I finally do. So, I am actually diagnosed with severe ADHD. And I'm extremely hopeful that through trial and error and the right medication, I'm going to get some relief. Like I told my doctor today, my one wish by the new year is to be able to sit down and watch a movie. Just to watch a movie and feel like I'm not dying on the inside, you know? To not feel like I'm making myself sit there. To be able to listen to people when they talk, because a lot of the times I don't listen to them. They see me, but I don't retain their information. You know, a lot of people say I'm not paying attention, and it's because it's extremely hard for me to listen to you when you talk. Like, it's all these things, and especially being in the moment with my kid, I'm just really like overwhelmingly excited to have a better quality of life and function a little bit different, a little bit better, being content with the moment, being happy, and not, causing arguments or looking for something to stimulate me just to make me happy, you know? So for the first time in my life, I'm openly talking about it. For the first time in my life, I'm hopeful. And not to say that I think a simple pill or medicine is going to be the fix-all. I know that. I'm not ignorant on that. But it sure is going to make a hell of a difference when my brain functions as an average person and not constantly seeking stimulation. So that's my story. And again, I don't mean anything by this in any sense of putting it on YouTube, other than I hope that there is at least one person out there, especially females, that are extremely hard to diagnose and they go misdiagnosed. I hope this reaches you out there to where you get some sort of relief, to where you feel like you're not alone, you're not crazy, you're not an attention whore, you're not an attention seeker, you're not a drama starter. You're not alone. And if you ever want to reach out to me and ask me questions, I would love to talk to you about it, because my person that I reached out, they reached back out to me, and I found out they had the same, situation. So I hope this reaches someone that it needs to, and help someone, take the first step in taking responsibility and doing something about it, rather than letting it get worse and worse and worse before it's out of control like mine was. And I may keep you updated. I may do an update on after I've got on some medicine, but I'm not quite sure. We'll see. But anyways, this is my story of my ADHD and the monster that's lived with it inside me since forever. So many blessings to you all, and I hope you all have a good rest of your day. Namaste. May peace be with you. Bye.